And then in Job 34, verse 15, all flesh shall perish together, and man shall turn again into dust.
So
Again,
our thoughts are gone and our body's dust.
back to dust.
Yeah, it doesn't give any indication, and these are just 2 snapshots again, but you could look at many more verses. It doesn't give any indication that people are there, and we're at some point in the future, we'll look at the examples of why people say they are there, but we just need to put them in the proper context, and we'll see that this is exactly what happened. The dead know not anything until the resurrection, as Tyndall said. Otherwise, what's the point of the resurrection? Paul said the same thing. It's been reiterated over and over and over again. This great event of the resurrection and the second coming would not be as great if most of the people were there, except for the ones alive on earth who would just be caught up at that moment anyway. So the whole thing would be very pointless if it weren't exactly as what the Bible says.
Right, because it says we will meet our loved ones again. So, but that's a whole nother thing.
So the doctrine of man's consciousness and death, essentially the belief that the spirits of the dead return to minister to the living, has prepared the way for modern spiritualism. So like as we talk more and more about spiritualism, because as this gets to be like a reality, because we're early and we're trying to tell people in advance, but I have a feeling as this comes to pass and we keep, as long as we're allowed to keep talking about this stuff, more people are going to listen. And we're going to define spiritualism around this idea of the dead returning. And this is what's going to play a big role, as we've looked at before. Here's a channel regarded as sacred through which Satan works for the accomplishment of his purposes. And there's a whole group like Marina Abramovich, who's this Satanist in Hollywood, who they do seances with spirits, and they're actually dialoguing with spirits. The Jesuits, there's information about them that they get information from channeling spirits. And so Satan uses these mechanisms, can even look like the good guy as coming in, but none of those things are how God communicates, just like he didn't communicate through the Witch of Endor with Samuel. That wasn't Samuel. There are Christians who think that was really Samuel. But again, this is all why understanding this issue is important. Because if this comes to pass, people who don't know these things, they're going to be absolutely blown away. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
It's going to be so convincing. It continues by saying the fallen angels who do his bidding appear as messengers from the spirit world, while professing to bring the living into communication with the dead. The prince of evil exercises his bewitching influence upon their minds. This is very clear, and this is what we believe, that fallen angels, in other words, demons, are going to come and appear as they have been like coming, but it's going to get in a mass amount.
Yes, it's going to get so overwhelming and so much more outward that it's going to be this false Holy Spirit's movement. It's going to captivate the whole world's attention. Says in Great Controversy 550, nowhere in the sacred scriptures is found the statement that the righteous go to their reward or the wicked to their punishment at death. The patriarchs and prophets have left no such assurance. Christ and his apostles have given no hint of it. The Bible clearly teaches that the dead do not go to heaven immediately to heaven. They are represented as sleeping until the resurrection. And if they're all sleeping, can it be your dead husband or your dead wife or your dead mom or your dead grandma? Is it possible for them to communicate with you? Are they watching over you and hovering? And when I say this, I'm trying to be very mindful that there are loved ones who think that, people who think that their loved ones are doing this and find comfort in that. But I would ask those people to just let God be your comfort. Let Jesus be your comfort, that you will meet them again because he is worthy, because he has the life. And so therefore, you don't need your loved one to be watching over you and comforting you, because Christ is comforting you and has taken care of your loved one who's resting peacefully.
When we talk about this subject, heaven is supposed to be free of pain and suffering and all these things. And can you imagine if they're up there looking down and they see all the pain that maybe you're going through, because not everybody has an easy life, and they can't do anything about it? They would be begging to leave there and come help, because they don't see the end from the beginning. They don't see how this is all going to play out. And they'd be, let me do something. Let me help. Why did I have to go? It would be
agonizing.
Yeah, it would not be a peaceful, lovely experience that they'd be going through.
Yeah, it's a good point. And hopefully people can find comfort. Like they don't, if it isn't how they think that it is, they don't somehow blame God for that. Like God is
Yeah.
still good, even if you have to change your understanding to fit what the book says rather than what you want to believe. And that is ultimately what our battle is here, is like challenging what we want to believe versus what the Bible says,
Yeah.
and choosing to do that instead, even if it feels like it's not right or it doesn't feel natural to us. But like, we are naturally at enmity with God. So there is going to be some pain, so to speak, as you learn what the reality is. And for some people, this is a very painful like idea. Yet if you really understood it, it would be very peaceful and like perfectly exactly how it should be when you understand, like the point you were making. Like it's better that they're asleep until all this is over.
And when we were just talking about Lazarus, with Lazarus, when Jesus was asking, where he is and everything, they said that he's asleep. And then Jesus said, I'm going to go wake him up. And they didn't realize that he knew what he was saying. They thought he was talking about asleep. And they responded, no, he's dead. And then they said, we know that he'll be brought to life again at the resurrection day.
Yeah.
So they understood that he didn't go straight to heaven.
Yeah.
They said, oh, we understand this, that he'll be resurrected on the last day.
Yeah.
And we have this comfort. And but we know that he was resurrected before the last day. But that was an extra supernatural event. That wasn't something that, and it wasn't his soul that came out of the grave. It was him, whole being, not decomposing and put back to normal flesh.
Yeah.
But that was something that Christ did as an example of what he is going to show us.
Yeah, and that he has the power within him to lay down his life and the power to pick it back up. And not to tackle this today, but like people think God the Father brought Jesus back, but Jesus brought Jesus back. He had the life within himself. That's why he said, I have the power to put it down. I have the power to pick it back up. And so he wouldn't have that be true if God the Father had to do that for him. And so there's a lot in understanding what Christ was trying to do in raising Lazarus from the dead, the reason why he waited so long to go there, so nobody could say that he wasn't really dead, like he was starting to decompose, and Jesus shows that he has this within himself. And it was the very thing that got him killed. We keep talking about this world united, and in order for a world to be united, can they be united and have like violently opposed ideologies? No. So they have to be together in mindset, on doctrine. And that's exactly what Great Controversy and, the Bible points to it. And she kind of gives the details about it. What it says, when the leading churches of the United States, and I'll venture to say once more, there will be no non-SDA groups telling you that this is all going down in America and it's going to happen in the churches. Yeah. So I hope that people who give us a hard time as this starts to happen will appreciate that we did so in the face of what all the opposition was saying. So the leading churches of the United States, uniting upon such points of doctrine as are held by them in common, shall influence the state, that is the church-state system, to enforce their decrees and to sustain their institutions. Then Protestant America will have formed an image of the Roman hierarchy. So this is the setting up of the image of the beast. This is how important this is. And the way that they get there, the points that they hold in common, Sunday and immortality of the soul. And this will lead to the forming of the image of the beast, which is why the church-state system makes sense, because that's what the beast had when it still had its power.